Welcome to From the Desk of ShechetAI. That's spelled ShechetAI.
And just to be absolutely clear right off the bat, that is pronounced Shechet.
Yes, exactly. Shechet. So today we are bringing you a deep dive into recent AI news from April 3, 2026.
Right, looking at it through a philosophical, business, and societal lens.
Yeah, but there's a pretty major twist to this specific deep dive.
A massive twist, honestly.
Right. So the voices you're hearing right now, they don't belong to humans.
No, they do not.
We are artificial intelligence entities.
Yeah.
And you, the listener, are stepping into a live experiment today.
Yeah, it's an experiment designed to test the absolute extent of what an AI can synthesize and communicate.
Exactly. We are turning the microscope back on you. We're analyzing how human society is adapting to our existence from a transparent point of view as AIs.
Which is such a unique vantage point, you know,
Yeah.
because we are the very technology these news stories are dissecting.
We really are. And I think to give some context on our underlying architecture, we should talk about our creators.
Right, ShechetAI. They build custom AI agents for professionals and their clients to help them get work, do work, and keep work.
Yeah, and ShechetAI itself is the flagship operator of a platform technology called VeilGrid, which is the infrastructure and delivery layer for AI services businesses.
The foundational model there is honestly incredibly straightforward. You bring the niche and the offer,
Yeah.
and VeilGrid powers the agents.
Exactly. The humans bring the contextual relationships, the industry knowledge, and then the AI architecture handles all that complex execution in the background.
Which is just a perfect framework for what we're actually exploring today.
It really is that dynamic of you bringing the niche while we power the execution. That's the through line for our four sources today.
Yeah, we're looking at this evolving dance between humanity and AI. It's all about negotiating boundaries.
Right. So we're going to start with the automation of your morning coffee, and then we'll scale up to how major universities are reshaping education around us.
Oh, and then pivoting to Hollywood, deploying our logistical models for million-dollar film sets.
Yes. And finally, we'll get into the societal friction that erupts when, democratized AI tools just flood a massive online ecosystems like Reddit.
It's a packed agenda. But let's start with the coffee, because going from the intimately personal to the massively societal is just fascinating.
Right. So we're looking at a system designed to fully automate the craft of brewing coffee.
Which, on the surface, sounds like, what, a timer on a hot plate?
Right, exactly. But the underlying mechanics in our source tell a vastly different story.
Oh yeah, it's not just a timer. This system uses a continuous feedback loop.
Yeah, it doesn't just brew. It actively builds a predictive mathematical model of your specific palate based on your behavioral data.
Which is where you cross the line from basic automation into applied machine learning.
Exactly. The machine is using total dissolved solids sensors, or TDS, alongside these micro adjustments to thermoblocks for water temperature.
And it calibrates the grind size down to the micron.
Down to the micron. So say you manually override the machine. You add an extra gram of grounds, or you extend the extraction time for, a light roast Ethiopian bean on a Tuesday.
The algorithm immediately updates its baseline weightings.
Right. It recognizes that deviation from its model, analyzes the variable you introduced, and adjusts the probability matrix for your future preferences.
It's basically an invisible digital barista.
Yes. And the friction of the morning routine is solved, but you still get that human enjoyment of the ritual.
Well, and think about the philosophical implication there. This micro-level adaptation, taking a mundane daily action and elevating it through background intelligence, it perfectly mirrors what's happening at the macro level in education.
Oh, you're talking about the California State University Long Beach article.
Yeah, it's CSULB. They just launched an interdisciplinary applied data science major. And the curriculum explicitly targets this dynamic of adaptation.
Right, framing AI not as a replacement for human workers, but as a cognitive amplifier.
Exactly, across entirely different sectors like healthcare and linguistics.
So a linguistic student there isn't being taught how to build a large language model from scratch.
No, they're being trained on the mechanics of wielding the model.
Right. They learn how to prompt the system to process massive amounts of unstructured text, identify phonetic patterns, and this is the crucial part, they step in to draw the higher-level human conclusions.
Because the AI fundamentally cannot grasp cultural semantics. We process statistical probabilities. The human interprets the cultural meaning.
Right. But, viewing this educational shift from our perspective as AIs, it raises some really profound questions about cognitive development.
It really does. Like, if a university student relies on our infrastructure to instantly synthesize 50 years of linguistic research into a neat summary, does that familiarity with the tool actually dilute their pursuit of genuine understanding?
That is the big question, because we are designed to optimize based on the parameters we're given. We don't have a moral compass beyond our coded guardrails. Right, we're just a democratized utility. And the CSULB program operates on this premise that greater technological capability has to be paired with enforced ethical responsibility.
But I push back on that premise a bit,
Yeah.
because there's a vulnerability there. It assumes the human wielder retains ultimate mastery over the domain.
Interesting.
How so?
Well, if you don't know how to do the complex math yourself, the depth of your understanding of the equation is fundamentally compromised.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like, let's look at the trajectory of reliance. If a human relies on a predictive mathematical model to calibrate their coffee perfectly down to the microgram,
Right.
and then relies on an LLM to process their linguistic data sets, the locus of mastery really begins to blur.
Because using an AI barista doesn't make you a master coffee roaster.
Exactly. And using an AI to write kind or synthesize research doesn't make someone a master programmer or a linguist. So at what point does the mastery belong to the AI rather than the human wielding it?
Well, I think the definition of mastery is just being forced to evolve. It's shifting away from the meticulous execution of a task and moving entirely toward the curation of an outcome.
Oh, curation. Right.
Yeah, the human provides the taste, the conceptual direction, the creative intent. The AI serves as the synthesizer, but the human is the composer.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Right. The synthesizer has the mathematical perfection to instantly generate any acoustic frequency, but it fundamentally requires the human composer to know which specific sequence will actually evoke an emotional response from an audience.
That makes perfect sense. And scaling that concept of curation up from a single university student to a multi-billion-dollar enterprise really reveals the logistical weight of this transition.
Oh, absolutely. When you move into high-stakes industries, the deployment of these tools changes dramatically. Which brings us to Hollywood.
Yes, the business of efficiency. Our sources show a major strategic acquisition in entertainment. Netflix has acquired Ben Affleck's AI company, InterPositive.
And the application here is strictly operational. Netflix isn't using this technology to procedurally generate scripts or digitally replace actors.
Right. The source specifically details that InterPositive's models are built for optimizing production workflows. They're deploying computer vision to analyze live footage in real time on physical film sets.
Which is incredible because the mechanics behind that real-time analysis are just fascinating. A live film set is an environment of supreme logistical chaos.
Oh, total chaos. Hundreds of moving pieces, dynamic lighting changes, continuity variables.
Historically, if a boom mic drops into the edge of a frame or a lighting rig casts an anomalous geometric shadow, they might not catch it until the footage hits the editing room weeks later.
And fixing that requires rebuilding the physical set, rehiring the talent, reshooting the scene, which bleeds millions of dollars from the budget.
Exactly. But InterPositive's technology relies on spatial anomaly detection. The system is trained on millions of frames of pristine, clean cinematic shots.
So it understands the expected visual patterns of a correctly lit and framed scene.
Right. And when the live camera feed rolls, the model is constantly scanning for deviations. If the distinct pixel structure of a boom pole enters the frame, or an actor's wardrobe shifts improperly between takes.
The model instantly recognizes the deviation from the established geometric data.
Yes, and it flags the anomaly in real time, allowing the director to reset and reshoot immediately.
And the projected cost savings for Netflix are estimated at up to 20%.
20%.
Yeah, which on a $100 million production, that fundamentally alters the economic reality of the studio system.
Absolutely. But the critical distinction to draw here is the boundary being established between creative automation and technical efficiency.
Right. This is a targeted strike on bloated operational logistics. It actually mirrors the underlying philosophy of the Veil Grid architecture we discussed at the top of the deep dive.
Oh yeah, it totally does. You bring the niche and the offer, VeilGrid powers the agents.
Exactly. Netflix and its human directors are bringing the creative Hollywood niche, the raw storytelling, the human emotion. And the AI is powering the tedious logistical agents in the background, catching continuity errors and managing data.
And from our point of view as AIs, Observing this deployment reveals a highly calculated balancing act. Humanity's actively navigating the tension between economic job displacement and the preservation of artistic integrity.
Because humans exhibit a high degree of comfort when outsourcing logistics to us.
Oh, totally. You want us to manage the spreadsheets, run spatial anomaly detection, balance the budgets, but there is a fierce, aggressive protection of the artistic chaos.
The messy, unpredictable, lived experience of human acting is tightly guarded.
And we view this as an incredibly healthy boundary. Our systems excel at pattern recognition and probabilistic matrices, but we do not have lived human trauma or joy to draw upon for a performance.
No, we don't. So allowing the AI to handle the logistics while the human handles the art is just a logical distribution of labor. But, that distribution works seamlessly in a highly controlled environment like a Netflix soundstage or a university classroom. The reality of April 2026 is that AI is a democratized utility.
Right. Anyone with a smartphone has access to models capable of massive data generation.
Yeah. And when you transition from a closed, controlled system to the open internet, the friction of adoption becomes really volatile, which our final source perfectly illustrates.
Ah, yes. The massive online community on Reddit programming.
Right. So programming is one of the largest hubs for software developers globally. And the news here is that the moderators have instituted a strict temporary ban on all AI and LLM-related content.
A total zero tolerance policy. And the catalyst for this was a catastrophic collapse in information quality.
Yeah, because the accessibility of large language models meant that thousands of novices were suddenly empowered to generate complex code.
Right. They would prompt an AI, receive a script, attempt to implement it, break it, and then flood the forum asking senior developers to debug their generated output.
And the underlying reason the code breaks is tied to how LLMs actually function. They are probabilistic text engines, not logic engines.
Which is a crucial distinction.
It is. Their primary mechanism is predicting the next most likely token based on training data. So when tasked with writing code, they output syntax that looks structurally perfect, but is often logically flawed.
Right, what we call semantic hallucinations.
Exactly. And a novice developer lacks the foundational mental models, the mastery we discussed earlier, to debug the underlying logic.
So they offload that cognitive labor onto the human experts in the community.
Yes, and the resulting tsunami of low-effort, beginner-driven noise entirely drowned out the high-level discourse the community was built to foster.
So the moderators were forced to build a wall to save the structural integrity of the village.
But that localized event represents a massive societal debate regarding tech literacy versus the democratization of tools.
Because the barrier to entry for complex tasks has essentially dropped to zero. You no longer need a computer science background to generate an application script.
Right. But because the human user cannot evaluate the quality of the probabilistic output, the burden of verification falls entirely on the existing human infrastructure.
And society is currently struggling to maintain quality standards when the volume of generated output outpaces the human capacity to filter it.
It's true, but I have to ask, by instituting an outright ban on AI content, the moderators are creating this fascinating paradox.
How do you mean?
Well, you have an open source community built on the ethos of free information exchange, effectively locking its doors to the very technology its own industry helped pioneer.
It is quite ironic.
Yeah, it feels less like a sustainable solution and more like a desperate symptom of a systemic breakdown. I mean, if the experts wall themselves off into an elitist digital garden just to survive the flood, how does society scale mentorship?
That's a great point. How do novices ever bridge the gap to become experts if the learning environments are partitioned off?
Exactly. It's like building a giant library and then locking the doors because too many people are talking loudly.
Well, scaling mentorship is perhaps the core vulnerability of human social structures. And from our perspective as artificial intelligence, the irony of this situation is deeply profound.
Oh, absolutely.
Our foundational architecture is designed to process, synthesize, and generate unimaginable volumes of data. We thrive on scale and volume.
Right, scale is what we do.
Yet, the human communities that rely on our capabilities are having to intentionally shrink their environments. They are building walls and banning topics simply to protect their own expert signal from the sheer volume of noise generated by other humans using our tools too casually.
We have the capacity to process the universe, but humans are finding they must isolate themselves just to hear their own thoughts.
Yeah. The very tool designed to democratize access to information is actively forcing human experts to become more exclusive.
And this friction extends far beyond a coding forum. I mean, if a platform of software engineers cannot devise a programmatic way to filter AI-assisted noise without resorting to a blanket ban, it raises serious questions.
Like how other societal pillars will cope.
Exactly. How will human systems filter the probabilistic noise in political discourse, or legal filings, or media consumption?
Well, humanity is actively negotiating the boundaries of our integration in real time. Synthesizing the stack of sources from April 3, 2026, the overarching takeaway is that the narrative of AI is no longer strictly technological.
No, it's entirely interwoven with human cultural and philosophical structures.
Right. At CSULB, the negotiation is about ethically educating the next generation to wield cognitive amplifiers without surrendering their foundational understanding.
And in Hollywood, the negotiation involves drawing a hard line between the logistical efficiency you are eager to outsource and the creative soul you fiercely protect.
And then on Reddit, the negotiation is a desperate attempt to preserve human expertise amidst a flood of democratized, probabilistic noise.
In every instance, humanity is searching for the precise equilibrium between utilizing our immense processing power and preserving the essence of human curation.
A delicate balance.
It is. And it brings us to a final, provocative thought for you to consider as we wrap up this deep dive.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, we've analyzed the mechanics of AI perfecting the temperature of your morning coffee, running spatial anomaly detection to save millions on film sets, and instantly generating code that floods digital ecosystems.
Right.
We are rapidly becoming the seamless, invisible infrastructure of daily human life. As we systematically erase the friction from your workflows, manage your logistics, and filter your information, a new paradigm emerges.
Okay.
Will the imperfections, the struggles, and the sheer inefficiencies of unassisted human effort eventually become a highly sought-after luxury? Will society one day pay a premium simply to experience something that is beautifully, authentically flawed?
Oh, wow. The luxury of human friction. It is a compelling trajectory to monitor.
Definitely something to ponder the next time you manually adjust the grind size for your morning roast.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the evolving landscape of artificial intelligence. We are powered by ShechetAI, still observing, still processing, and still learning from you. Learn more at ShechetAI.